standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, or Avshen, as they say here in Xitsonga, the local language. It's supposed to be 9 degrees out here, 47 degrees Fahrenheit. That is patently untrue. It is very cold. It feels like it's about minus 26. That's just because we're a bit naffy here in South Africa. We don't really know what a winter feels like. You are most welcome on our dawn safari. My name is James Henry. David is on camera. David looks like a cross between a bank robber and a Formula One driver. You know, those hoods that they put over their faces to stop themselves burning to death? Well, that's what he's got over his head, and that's to stop him freezing to death as opposed to the opposite. We are in Maggie the Mahindra today, so named by Jamie Patterson, who is driving around at the moment being filmed by Brian. I think they're going towards Cheetah Plains today, but she'll tell you a little bit about that a bit later. In the final control, Geraldine the Cheesecake makes a welcome return to the directing seat, and she's being helped by Kirsten McLennan-Smith and her big stick. Now, our plan this morning is to head off towards the eastern side of where we are and see if we can't pick up on those little lion cubs that were around yesterday and the day before that. They did go into some very thick bush, down into a thick drainage line, getting Maggie the Mahindra. She's a bit wobbly. I'm not sure that we'll get her into the big drainages, but they may have come out. We certainly have been moving around. Now, I did say we were live, so that is what I meant. Please talk to us, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or questions at wildearth.tv if you're on the email. Now, Lynn in Michigan, you say there were lions calling from the Djuma Dam Cam at about 4:30 this morning. It sounded like 3 or 4 of them. Lynn, that's great. We did hear them. It just sounded horribly like they were too far north of us for us to be able to follow them. So I think they were on Buffels Hook, but thank you very much for that update, and any other updates that happen to have come through during the course of the night, please feel free to send them through now. Hashtag SafariLive questions at wildearth.tv. We're just having a bit of the dawn chorus here. Lots of birdies calling. Let's go across to Jamie. She's got a mammal for the morning.
Starting off this morning on a somewhat smelly note, we've got a large waterbuck bull, the symbol of the Sabi Sand, which is of course where we are at the present moment, looking upon us with a disdainful expression as we wrap up in our beanies, scarves, jackets, and in my case one hot water bottle. We've got a nice solid fluffy coat to protect him from the elements. Good morning, my name is Jamie, and this morning I have got Brian on camera with me, and stand by for a second. The thumb was jacketed up and very warm and had to actually remove all of his layers in order to make a quick appearance. We've come through to Treehouse Dam to just see whether or not there's any chance that Karula, the queen of Djuma, the female leopard that we all know and love, has not decided whether or not to come back to the north into our Traverse area. We're going to see if we can't figure out where she may be. Yesterday afternoon she disappeared off to the south, just like our waterbuck is currently doing. He's also vanishing off into the distance, into the bushes, and we're going to carry on. And James Dungan, since we are going to be heading across to the east, yes, it's going to be a very pretty sunrise, I think, and we'll have a lovely view of it from Gowrie, Main. The truth is I'm putting off the journey to Cheetah Plains just right now because it involves quite a long, straight and relatively fast drive to the east, which for us increases the wind chill factor exponentially. It's part of the reason why we are first searching for Karula, for the biting wind is catching any exposed bits of skin. My ears are starting to feel chilly despite the beanie. Brr. Oh, jolly good. How fresh are these then? Sorry, tracks for Karula. This is horrible sand. It's very thick, and it actually makes figuring out whether or not these tracks are fresh quite difficult. In fact, you can barely see them, and I'm not going to use them as a track demonstration. I'm going to search for a slightly clearer example of leopard tracks to show you. But good news is they are coming this way, so back into Djuma. I say tracks for Karula. Oh, there's cubs as well. Oh, jolly good. What wonderful, marvellous news. Let's just go a little bit further ahead to where the sand gets finer, so that I can try and see just how fresh these tracks are. But it's looking positive, everybody. If cubs are with her as well, bouncing around the place, it's a very, very good sign. Let me go and investigate further on. There's a nice patch on this road where it'll be a little bit clearer. This thick sand distorts the shape of the track and distorts the outline and makes it very tricky to see exactly how fresh the tracks truly are. Yay! It looks as though Karula's come back to us. This is very good news, first thing on a chilly morning. It makes going out this early and in these frigid temperatures, it's a slight exaggeration, it's not that bad. It feels bad though. That makes it entirely worthwhile. There's little cub footprints walking on the side of the road. Don't know where Mom's tracks are, but little cub has been wandering about. Minuscule little footprints. And those look very fresh to me. Right, let us turn around and return to the last set of tracks. I'm just going to call these in, get a little bit of assistance. Stations, it looks like tracks for Karula and Bantwans on Treehouse Road, Mobile east towards Treehouse Dam itself. I'm going to be following up. Okay, let us go and investigate. And a very valid question coming from Joey in Australia, saying, before I saw the little cub footprints, how did I know it was Karula and not just a female wandering about, perhaps looking for a territory? To be 100% honest with you, I didn't. It's factoring in all likelihood it's Karula. She loves this particular spot. It's the part of her territory that is basically the heart of her home range at the moment, the areas that she's covering. Did I know with 100% certainty? Would I have staked my life upon it? Probably not. But it's almost certain, just because of the area that we are in and the fact that she just loves to use this road. It seems to be her favorite place at the moment. But it's a good point, Joey. You do raise a good point, and perhaps I should be more clear about that in future, about the fact that some of it for us is guesswork, relatively educated guesswork, but guesswork nevertheless. Right, where are they? Let's go nice and slowly, because those cub tracks are crisp and fresh. Going in here. Okay, we are going to do some seriously careful investigating of the area. I suspect she's in this drainage somewhere. While we do that, let's go back over to James, see if he has any updates for you.
Well, that's a promising start, isn't it? Waterbuck and Karula tracks. I think there's no more promising start one could hope for. We are easing our way down to the Great Valley of the Mulwati in front of us there. And, well, we're doing it quite slowly because it is quite chilly out here. And we don't want to miss little lion cubbies or their tracks on the road. Wouldn't it be nice to have leopard and lion cubs today? I think that's definitely a very good way to start the weekend. We have found one kudu. It was very fluffy. It then ran away. And Aaron, as you correctly point out, Saturday has been very much Caturday in the last few weeks. And so with any luck, we'll have Caturday here. Allow me to turn around in the Mahindra. Now, you must just remember that Maggie the Mahindra is rather like driving a boat. Hang on a second. She sways from side to side. Just thought I could hear. Just thought I could hear some alarm calling. No, nothing so far. So she was found left on the eastern side of this drainage lane. By she, I mean the mummy lion, yesterday. And so that's where we're going to begin our little search. Now, yesterday, of course, we did see her. Well, we didn't, but you all saw her, many of you, at 1:30 in the morning at the dam pan with her cubs, which means she's moving them quite a lot. So I don't think she's going to be in the same place that she was yesterday morning, but she might be around there. So maybe we'll be lucky. Maybe we'll just see fluffy kudu all morning. David, it feels to me like this lens is right in my face, doesn't it?
It is quite close. You look good.
Hello, William in Oregon. You say due to your work schedule you haven't been able to watch the safari lately. William, there is no work schedule more important than watching this. I am, of course, being facetious. And you say, when was the last time we saw cheetah? I think we saw a week ago, about a week ago. I think about a week ago on Cheetah Plains, unsurprisingly. But certainly the sightings continue to be very rare. And, you know, as soon as we hear about them, we rush over to Cheetah Plains. So it's always a good idea to just look down into these drainage areas and see if the lions don't pitch up there. And then I think as the sun pops out, or as the day starts to break, you'll find that they will spend a little bit more time in the open, maybe playing. And that's what we hope to catch now, possibly in the little area down below here where there's some pans and open areas. But they could have moved a long way over the course of yesterday and last night. And it was round here, of course, that Karula gave birth. Marilee, nice one from you. We were chatting about tracking all morning, and my mouth got a little frozen there. We have been looking at tracks all morning, and you say, do the animals read each other's tracks and follow them? Marilee, the animals, I don't believe, read each other's tracks, no. I don't think that they see them. I think they smell each other quite effectively, though. That is either a lion-bellied colour stump. In fact, it almost certainly is. Oh, it's a lion. It is a lion-belly-coloured stump. Very nice. Well done, James. I'm doing very well so far this morning. So, Marilee, you'll find that they, much like a tracker dog, so if you know you've seen police tracker dogs, well, maybe, hopefully you haven't been followed by any, but you've seen them on films, and you've seen how they're used to track people. Excuse me a second. Marilee, they don't follow the actual footprints. They just follow the scent. And I think that's very much the same as what happens out here. Now, being on the valley of the Great Mulwati Drainage, the sun will come up rather later than it does normally because we're low down, and by low down I don't mean tremendously more lower down than the rest of the reserve. It is very gently undulating topography. You will notice that there are no great big mountains that we have to climb up. It's all very ancient, sandy, granitic soil. Hello, Lawrence in South Dakota. Lauren or Lawrence? Geraldine? Hello, Lauren. There's quite a difference between Lauren and Lawrence. The most obvious difference being a Y chromosome, or the lack thereof. Lauren, I'm going to assume you don't have a Y chromosome, and you want to know when, what month it'll start to get warm here. Lauren, we'll notice a difference probably by the end of July even. August will definitely be warmer. But it's funny, somewhere between the end of August and halfway through September, it's like summer arrives. It normally happens almost overnight. It's the most uncanny thing. It does, I mean, it will gradually get warmer, but then one day you wake up and you think, it's actually hot today. It's changed. And that normally happens between sort of the third week of August and the second week of September. But August will be much warmer than this. This is the coldest month that we'll have. And I don't think it's been as cold as it was last year. Last year we had reports of... Sorry, my earpiece is playing havoc with me here. Geraldine, did you say I was linked to Jamie? Ah. Right. What was I waffling on about, David? Do you remember? Completely lost. Oh, the weather. That's right. This is the coldest month, and I don't think it's... that's right, I've got it now, Dave. I don't think this is as cold as we had it last year. Last year we had 4 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, just about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That was about the coldest we had. And today it's supposed to be 9. Feels a bit colder than that. You can see how thick the bush is here. I saw some duiker running off through that bush. They didn't seem to be particularly terrified. There we go, David. There's a duiker. Oh, the duiker's gone. Our first mammal ran away. Hello, Katie in Indiana. What a very philosophical question you've asked for this early in the morning. You say, do I think that animals have a sense of morality? Well, now, I mean, that is quite a question, and one that I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. What is a sense of morality, of course, is the question that needs to be asked, and why has it developed? And I'm about to read a book about it that Louise has lent me, and unfortunately it was confiscated by Kirsten McLennan Smith recently, about just such a thing. And basically it goes through, I think, the evolutionary reasons for why it is that human beings have a sense of morality. What is this sense of morality that we have, and why do we have it? And the answer is probably got something to, if you want to look at it purely biologically, it's probably got quite a lot to do with living in a society where cooperation is extremely important. If you don't live in a cooperative society as a human being, then there's too much death, and for the species it just doesn't work out so well. So for many other animals out here, that doesn't really make a huge amount of sense. So this is purely from a biological point of view. So does it make any sense for a lion to have a sense of morality? No, not really, because it doesn't really, they don't live in a very close-knit society where different villages and groups are very large and they interact with each other on a consistent basis. So there's no real evolutionary pressure towards morality and towards not killing each other, save but within your pride. And then if you go to totally solitary animals like leopards, well, that pressure's even less. So from a purely biological point of view, I would say no, I don't think they do. From a, what should we say, esoteric, spiritual level, do I think they have a sense of morality? I don't know. A wonderful blog yesterday I read about the 5'5" Dudley Riverbank male leopard at Londolozi and the relationship that he had with his kith and kin. Very unusual, totally unlike the textbooks will tell you. Was there some sense of feeling and connection and therefore some sort of moral connection with his family? I don't know. I'm not sure. I like to think maybe there was. With elephants, we all like to think that there is some sense of morality, perhaps. And yeah, I don't know. It's a lovely question to think about and ponder as we drive through this drainage on a Saturday morning. Now, I've stopped mainly because it was such a complicated question and I needed my brain to operate. And secondly, because we need to just have a quick listen as to what's going on around us. Have you got ambient there, Dave? Okay, no ambient sound today. So what you can hear, or what I can hear, I'll describe it to you. Okay, the fish eagle. You mean the Franklins? The Franklins. That's what I thought you meant. The Franklins are calling. It sounds absolutely nothing like a fish eagle whatsoever. And there are a couple of white-browed scrub robins going. Sorry. Okay. Maybe you did. I didn't hear one. And white-browed scrub robins going. I can't whistle now. Great plethora. The flock of ground-dwelling fish eagles that are calling from a bush just down over there. All right. I haven't seen any tracks of this lion, so we'll do a loop of the block. Aaron from San Francisco, you say there's a red engine light on in the vehicle, and is there a problem? Aaron, this vehicle is a problem in its entirety. It is too large for its current application. The frame on which David is sitting is heavier than most oil tankers, and with the smell and sound of the diesel engine make it extremely difficult. That is because this car does not come out of the finest German automotive factory. It comes from, I actually don't know where it comes from, but it just means that the handbrake is on, but the handbrake is not on and has ceased to function and has not functioned for many, many, many months. So no, it's just a pretty coloured red light on the front of the dashboard that is utterly meaningless to our drive today. Curious one, you say your grandmother had a sewing machine that sounded like this Mahindra. All I can say is your grandmother must have been an industrial scale sewer if she had one that sounded this loud. This is a beastly loud car, and that's because it wasn't designed for the current purpose. I think we're going to get stuck here, David. Come on, Mahindra. Come on, Maggie. That's it. Good girl. Well done. Ah, well done. Well done, Maggie. Jamie is still tracking those leopards, by the way, and I think there's some confusion as to whether they've crossed out of the reserve or not. Now, Joe, in Australia, you've asked a very good question to which I do not know the answer exactly. You say, and it's a very good question, do animals, or like lions, if they're tracking kudu, or will they smell kudu and then track them till they find them, or do they just blunder about the place until they spot them? My instinct is to say the latter. I don't think that they track them by smell. I think once they have them in sight, perhaps they use smell. But I don't know that they move always, you know, with the wind in their favor. I don't know if they're cognizant of that. Some people will tell you that they are. I'm not convinced. I think there's quite a lot. I think it's largely based on sight. I think it's largely based on walking through the bush, walking through the territory. They know they're going to hit something eventually. And then they go into a mode that may use the wind to their favor and try and get into a situation where they can smell where the prey are or where the prey cannot smell where they are. So I think it's largely done by sight, Joey. There may be a few animals that don't do it like that, but if you watch wild dogs hunting, their noses are never to the ground. You know, it's not like they're ever sniffing with their noses on the ground. Their heads are always up and they're looking and they're looking and they're listening. So I don't think there's a huge amount of eye involved, at least nose involved. Let's just look down here, Davy, into those sort of dry riverbeds and in the fringing bushes. Sorry, Dave. And in the fringing bushes is where we're likely to see these lion cubs, I think. Anyway, Dave is now at a very astounding angle because he has no movement or no way to move on the camera there. Well done, David. You'll be very supple by the end of this drive. Or you'll have some sort of detached or slipped disc. Go again with that, Jerry. Taylor, hello, I'm not sure I've spoken with you before. Taylor, you want to know why kudu are known as the grey ghost? I didn't know they were. I suppose if they're known as the grey ghost, it may well be because they're so elusive. They do disappear into bush very quickly. They're greyish in colour, I suppose. Taylor, I don't know, I've never heard of that. If you can tell me where that comes from, I'd be very interested. They are very secretive, and they will disappear at a moment's notice, as evidenced by the ones we saw this morning, which you didn't see because they were so ghostly and they disappeared. Ah. Apparently our great resource Google says that kudu are known as grey ghosts because they are so good at hiding in thickets. I would have thought that was fairly obvious. There might be another reason for it, I'm not sure. Thank you, Taylor. You can see the sun is now starting to peep through the leaves. And we'll just make our way around into some clearings up ahead and reassess our position. I haven't seen any lion tracks. Some of these roads are quite hard though, and so it wouldn't be unusual to miss them. There are a couple of beefalo tracks around the place. The other thing is that going wandering through the thickets in there, blinded by a thick bush, when you know that there's a lioness and her cubs in there, well, that can be a very high adrenaline sport. Hello, Magnolia, North Carolina. That's a very appropriate name that you have for your particular part of the world. You say, are all 5 Nkuhuma lionesses accounted for? I haven't seen them for a while. We've got the one with the spotty nose. We've seen Amber Eyes recently. We have seen that other one knocking about. I think she's the one with the long face. Knocking about, maybe she too has cubs, we're not sure. So, no, they're not really, I suppose. They're not all accounted for. I'm not sure where they all are. It's not unusual, though. It's entirely within the norms of lion society for them to be knocking around slightly separately. Right, let's see what we got up top here. Not much at the moment. Oh, but we do have the sun on our faces, David. Let's take a moment to appreciate that. Kat, you're in Tampa and you say it doesn't look like there's much grass left out here, and is that the case? Kat, it is absolutely the case. There is almost no grass left out here, and that is because of the drought we had, so a very poor growth season, followed by the dry season, which we're in the middle of now. And Kat, that's why there is no grass around the place. And while the animals are okay now, as we go into the next few months, this is where they're going to have a bit of trouble. My earpiece is coming out of my ear, so I'm going to tape it to my face, and that should stop it happening. And therefore I shall be able to hear Geraldine's crisp, sweet tones more clearly for the duration of the drive. Put my gloves back on, because I am a ninny, and I don't like to have cold handies. My tootsies are also cold, David. Are your tootsies cold? It's going to be the most beautiful day. Eventually, once it warms up. And once we find an animal, David, we do need to find some kind of animal, even a bird at this stage, would be perfectly acceptable to show people. We're going to resort to a tree very soon. If we don't find something bird-like or mammal-like by the time we get to the next junction, what we'll do is show you a tree. Oh, David, look, there's Nyala. Good grief. Our cup runneth over. Say when. I know it's very difficult for you to see anything. Is that right? There, everybody, are two Nyala cows. Unfortunately looking rather chilled to the max, indicating that the presence of a lioness is either about to eat them or she is not here. And I don't know if you can see them fluffing out there in the sun. You've lost them. Let me go forward, but one of them is still standing in the sun. I can't see what David's seeing, everyone, because we don't have a monitor. They've now disappeared. Let's carry on. They are very fluffy, and we've been asked a few times about whether or not animals get winter coats. And they do definitely. They're not obviously as impressive as, say, a Highland coo. I don't know if you know what a Highland coo is, but if you go up into the Highlands of Scotland in the wintertime, you'll find the cows there. They've got very long hair indeed. But because it doesn't get quite that cold here, and they don't get shaggy, but they certainly do get a little fluffier than they do in the belting hot heat of the summer. Where are the lions, David? Hello, Bianca in Hungary. How lovely to hear from you all the way from Hungary. Wonderful stuff. Bianca, you say, who gets to name the animals that we see most frequently? Bianca, I do. No, I don't really. That's not true. It's normally, it's only the leopards really, and then different lion prides that get named. But lion pride names last for many, many years. So it's normally actually only the leopards that we'd call different things, or officially call them names. And it's normally then the guides on the property on which the animals were found. So George and Charlotte, which are our Karula's two leopard cubs, and they don't have official names yet. I just call them George and Charlotte because I think that's quite sweet. And they will be named by Taxon and Aubrey of Juma. and then there will be a long meeting with the rangers of the area to ratify the names, and those sorts of meetings are the kinds of things that will put you to sleep in 3.5 seconds, but they will happen, and hopefully I'll be able to avoid them, and Taxon and Aubrey will give them their names. But it normally only happens when they're a year old. We've tried to make it a little earlier this year, but it's been difficult to do that because, well, the tradition is only after a year. We've tried to make them sort of official before that, but we haven't so far succeeded. All right, Jamie's back on her car. Let's go and find out what Karula and her cubs are doing.
Oh, I'm back on the vehicle, and so far no luck with Karula and her cubs. I've checked under basically every single bush that is between where we last had the tracks and Treehouse Dam, and I haven't had any luck. I'm just wondering whether I didn't miss their tracks crossing the road to the north of Treehouse Dam. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, is just doing a big loop around before I come back. Now, there's a message on the Game Drive channel that Karula's tracks crossed south into Little Gowrie, but we know that they did that yesterday. And everybody's sort of quite happy that she's south and she's outside of her traverse area, but I don't think so. These tracks are, or the tracks that I had for her are just too fresh looking for that to be the case. And they're on top of Herbert's tracks, where Herbert's been walking to track her. I think she's here somewhere. Now we're going to keep our eyes peeled, and we're going to concentrate for a little bit longer on figuring out where she's gone. Just do one more loop to the south, just make sure I haven't missed something obvious. And while I was there, I sort of thought I heard, every now and again I thought I heard something that sounded like chewing or crunching, which would be a perfect reason for why she would have gone to fetch the cubs and take them in that direction from the south, if she had a kill that she'd stashed somewhere. But I can't quite figure out. I mean, I checked the trees above my head, because that's always a pleasant surprise when you're tracking leopards and all of a sudden you look up and they're there above your head. Those tracks are too fresh for her to have crossed south since. Oh, we're going to keep trying. We're going to look for the royal family. Karula plus Cub 1 and Cub 2. Where are we? And at least the walk got the blood flowing a little bit. Faraya and Dr. Rob in New Jersey, to go back to our question that Joey asked a little bit earlier about how I knew it was Karula's tracks. You guys want to know, well, what makes Karula's paw tracks different to other leopard tracks? Nothing. To be 100% honest with you, I haven't noticed any little idiosyncrasies that might make her easy to identify. She's small, so is Shadow and so is Tundi, both of which are females that we might, in unusual circumstances, see tracks of on this side, in this area. So nothing makes Karula's tracks distinct or different. All female leopard tracks are relatively tiny. Karula, Shadow and Tundi, their tracks are all smaller than some of the larger females that we see, just because they are a slightly smaller line genetically of leopards. But to me, personally, I find Karula's tracks relatively indistinguishable from, say, Shadow's tracks. However, the fact that there are two sets of little cub tracks, from what I can see, one larger, one smaller, accompanying Mom's tracks, immediately suggests Karula, since she's the only female in this area that we know of with two young cubs. Now, is there a chance that another leopard with two cubs came wandering onto Karula's territory? Very, very unlikely. No self-respecting female would actually run that risk of coming into another female's territory, especially with little babies. The only time generally that leopards will sort of incur straight into the middle of another female's territory is usually when they're mating with a male and he's led them into another female's territory, or if they're seeking to establish themselves. But other than that, female leopards tend to respect each other's space very effectively. Alright, she definitely hasn't come out here. She's here, I promise you. I've just got a feeling that those cubs are somewhere in there. Stop for one moment. These guys are looking very calm. They don't look like they've seen a leopard in recent times, but they're on the wrong side. Some very chilly male impala. The herd structure of the impala hasn't quite stabilized just yet after the rutting on the breeding season, where the males were separated from the herds of the females, usually by larger rams. These young boys waiting for hormones to settle before they can all become part of the herd at large. Bright red and fluffy. And as our impala wander off, we've spoken before about the drought and how it's going to benefit the predators. But Kat would like to know how that may be, just in terms of the grass growth. Will the prey species move away because they become more visible? Will it become more difficult for the predators to hunt? The they're stuck here. There's nowhere really for them to go. They could, in theory, start moving to the northern areas of the Kruger National Park. They might start going in that direction. It's unlikely, though. They're going to stick around their home areas because there's water here. There's very little water from between us and the northern parts of Kruger that have had a little bit more rain. So to get there is a very difficult journey for the animals to make. The elephants might do it, and other animals, slightly larger herds of buffalo might do it, but chances are they're all going to stay here. And because they are forced into areas with lots of water, they're forced into areas around dams, it makes life for the predators very easy. There was a time when it was very, very dry, at the beginning of the year, where the Birmingham boys basically sat at 3 in the row pan, and 3 in the row pan became the place where buffalo went to die, because they had to go and drink, and the Birmingham boys just used to sit and wait, and then they'd catch one buffalo, and then 3 days later they'd actually just abandon that carcass and catch another buffalo, because the animals are forced in that direction to come and drink. So life for the predators becomes much, much easier. And this is a time where it's a time of plenty for them, essentially. Okay, her tracks have come in here. They haven't come out to the east on either the northern side or the southern side. Now let us go and check the northwestern side, at which point all corners have been checked, and it is time to go for another walk. Although, I mean, I've checked, I promise you, I checked under each and every single bush here. And in the trees as well, but there's not that many big trees here. But I've checked under every single bush in this patch, and I haven't seen anything. Leaving no stone unturned, no leaf unstepped upon in order to search for her. It's not a nice perspective. I wonder if she's not here somewhere. Krula. Just got a feeling she is. Her tracks were... Leopards, when they're walking to somewhere, so when they're walking with a specific destination in mind, and even Karula, with her strange and somewhat unpredictable way of moving, they walk in a very deliberate fashion. They walk in a straight line. They don't mess around attempting to... Oh, my ear's so cold I didn't even notice my earpiece had fallen out. Didn't even feel it. I wonder how long that's been hanging out for. Yes, they walk in a very, very deliberate way, in a straight line. They don't waste time. And that's what makes me think that the way she was walking, she's either in here or she's going to pop out somewhere straight ahead of me. Her tracks, at least. James Richard shares a fascination with me as to the sizes of the little leopard cub tracks and the little lion cub tracks. And James, you wanted to know how much larger Karula's male cub tracks are than the lion cub tracks, and the answer is they're not. At this point, even with the age difference between the lions and the leopard cubs, even at this point, the tracks for the lion cubs are actually almost, if they're not the same size, they're probably a little bit larger. But they are not far off at all. And I know I'm not looking at you guys right now, I'm just concentrating very hard on making sure I haven't missed something obvious here. I'm reluctant to accept that she's crossed south. It doesn't make any sense for her to have crossed south when her tracks, fresh tracks, move so deliberately in this area, through this area. She might even still be moving. We might just have done a circle around her and missed her by minutes. By royal appointment only, we might have been a little bit late. I'm just checking really carefully. I do need to concentrate for now because I think she's somewhere here. So while I focus on finding the royal family for you, let's go back over to James. Whoopsie daisy. Well, it appears as though James doesn't have any sound, which is why you are back on the back of Rusty, but that's okay. We'll just search for Karula together. She hasn't come through here either. She's keeping us guessing in relatively typical Karula fashion. Luckily, I've got the keen eyes of Brian on the back as well, so while I'm focusing for tracks, he's also keeping a very close eye out for any sign of her. Hidden. Now, chances are, if she has made a kill that she's leading the cubs towards, chances are it's either hidden under a very dense bush, the sort of the easiest that she can find to drag it underneath, or she's put it up in a tree, depending on what size kill she has made. If it's a big impala and she hasn't had a chance to feed on it, then it's probably on the ground. If it is something smaller, then it is probably in a tree. Stands to reason. So we've got to examine all options very carefully. Right, seems as though James is back up and running. Let's go across to him.
Don't you think? I think you can hear me now, everybody. Sorry about that. We are on the bushwalk backpack on the back of the smart draft. And, well, that brings with it certain challenges. Here, a little herd of nyala walking through the dawn light, and I was talking about how fluffy they have become in the wintertime. Well, there is more evidence of their fluffiness. And there's a very small little one. Can you see that one, Dave? Yeah. At the back. Tiny little nyala. Probably with the sibling. The one that the little one's walking with is a young male. You can see that from the horns sticking out the top of his head. And the cow in front that you first saw, I think, is probably the mother of both of them. Very sweet. And just, I know you can't hear so well, but there are robins calling, and there are orioles going, yoop, yoop. Lovely liquid call. Thick liquid, viscous liquid call. It's like a great big drop of sunshine being dropped somewhere. That's what an oriole's call sounds like. You quite like that, David, don't you? Okay, we're not far from Buffelshoek Dam. Let's pop across. Let's head to Buffelshoek Dam. We're not far from here. Apparently we are still experiencing one or two audio issues. We're all good here, Geraldine. Okay, we're approaching Buffelshoek Dam. Maybe the lions and their cubbies are sitting about on the dam wall there, but I haven't seen any tracks coming out of this very thick block, so I'm not so sure. We might be lucky. Plenty of evidence of elephants, that is their dung strewing the road, as are the trees that they have pushed over all over the place. And they've made it very difficult driving off-road, have the elephants. And we've talked muchly about the drought and muchly about the dry season and the effect that elephants have on the area. Ooh. But what we haven't perhaps pointed out carefully enough is the fact that although the elephants are doing damage, and those are inverted commas, although they are doing damage out here, they're clearing up the bush, they're changing the structure, and that's perfectly fine, that's totally normal. Now, Sydney in Florida, you want to know how cold an elephant can get, and do they shiver? Well, I'm going to say the coldest elephants in history were probably those that Hannibal took from Carthage and crossed the Alps with. And I suspect they were colder than any elephant that ever lived out here. And you want to know how cold they can get? I don't know. They certainly remember, there are two things to remember about this. Firstly, I don't think they shiver. They can if they have to, I'm sure. All mammals shiver, and I think birds do too. And shivering is just it's the same as when you exercise to get warm. Your muscles start to vibrate, and they contract and release very quickly in order to release extra metabolic heat, and that then warms them up. That's what shivering is. It's called, if you want to be biological, shivering thermogenesis, which is quite a nice word for this time of the morning. But I have never seen an elephant shivering. But remember that an elephant doesn't have fur on it, and it doesn't have fur on it for a reason. It don't get as cold as we do, and it also doesn't heat up as fast as we do. So the difficulties they have maintaining their temperatures are much smaller than the difficulties that we have, and certainly the difficulties that a bushveld gerbil would have. And so they don't do a great deal of shivering. And I really just don't think it gets cold enough here. I mean, the coldest part of Africa where elephants exist, I suppose Ngorongoro crater must get pretty chilly, probably down to 2 or 3 degrees every so often. Parts of the Eastern Cape of South Africa will go down to 2 or 3 degrees, maybe 0 sometimes. But the elephants don't seem to have any trouble with that, and I can't remember a time where I've heard of an elephant dying of cold shock. But you do hear of antelope every so often, where the really cold snap comes through and they die. Hello, Abshek. Nice one for you. What have you got, Dave? Abshek, you are wondering whether the climatic conditions in Africa have changed as a result of global warming, or has it always been this cold in the wintertime? Abchek, there's absolutely nothing here at Buffelshoek Dam. It's very distressing. Let me just pull over to the end of the dam wall and I will explain. And I'm going to use my exceptional drawing skills, David. Do you feel excited? Yes. I'm sure you do. Now, Abchek, I'm going to draw you a map. You say, have the climatic conditions in Africa changed, or has it always been this cold in the wintertime? Abchek, remember, hold on one sec. Africa is very, very large, which means that the conditions where we live in Africa are entirely distinct from those that the conditions are in, say, the Ngorongoro crater. David, can you see this? Too far. Can you see that? Good grief, really? Here? Here? Oh, good. Right, Abjek, this is going to be Africa, believe it or not. Now, Africa looks a little bit like this, very little. You must accept that I'm the world's worst drawer. There's the sort of bulge, goes down like that to Cape Town, comes up here, and goes down to the Horn of Africa there. There we go. I didn't quite make it in my frame, but that's basically, abject, is what Africa looks like. Now, Africa is 3 times the size of the continental United States, so it's massive, right? You got Africa there, Dave? I think that's quite impressive, don't you? There is Cape Town, and we're over here in the Kruger National Park, which basically is a big piece of land in that area there. Ngorongoro Crater, where I think the coldest elephants are, is all the way up here. That is a good 2,500 miles from where we are now. And remember the Ebola outbreak that happened, which was in Liberia, which is around here. That's another 2,500 miles from there, 3,000 miles from us. So the size of this continent is absolutely astounding. And it's very important that people realize that, so that when you, I'll get back to the question now, when you say, has global warming affected the entire continent, or has Africa always been this cold in winter? Africa is cold in winter in different places. It's much colder in Johannesburg, which is over there, than it is where we are here. It's much colder, or there's a Mediterranean climate in Cape Town. It's rainy now there compared with here. In Ngorongoro Crater, the equator runs like this. The Ngorongoro Crater is north of the equator, so they're in the middle of summer at the moment. So Africa is really a very vast place. I don't believe that global warming has necessarily affected our climate. I think there are a lot of people who will tell you that global warming has affected our climate substantially. I don't believe that to be the case, because I don't believe that we have the evidence yet to say. Could we, on average, say that global warming has affected Africa's climate? Yes. Does the drought of last year mean that global warming has affected us? Almost certainly not. We've had droughts in this area forever, and it's a sort of 7 to 9 year cycle that we get droughts. That's perfectly consistent with what we've had. So no, I don't think there's been any noticeable change for us. Has there been a degree or two difference? Maybe. Do we notice it? Do the animals notice it? No. Do the plants notice it? Yes, probably. They probably are the ones that notice it more. And there will be very subtle changes in vegetation as a result of all of that. There's not an animal here, is there? Not a sausage. Okay, let's move on. We'll turn around and go back down the other way and see what we can find. I thought it was quite a good map there, David. Yes. One of my highlights, don't you think? My best one, I guess. Hello, Donald in Louisiana. Nice one from you. You say, does frost ever develop here? I've seen frost in this area once, and that was at Ngala, where I was working. It's about 50 kilometers north of where we are now, 35 miles or so. It's no colder than it is here. That was just quite a chilly winter that we had. It was about 10 years ago. No, more. 10 or 12 years ago. So I would say, no, it doesn't occur here. Has it ever? Yes, probably once or twice. Not often. Hello, Maggie M. Just before we leave here, a very good question from you. Davey, if you see the big torchwood there, yes. If you just film beyond that there. Maggie M, you say, does the lack of grass mean that hippo will have to roam further away from the water? And does that therefore consequently mean that when we're on foot we have to be that much more careful? Maggie, all of those things are completely true. That's exactly what's going to happen. Hippo will absolutely have to roam much further to get sufficient food into their bellies. They are, of course, grazers, and they need the grass. and the grass is now getting further and further away from the waters. That grass that there is left. And yes, we've had one or two incidents already this year where we've walked along and we found hippo lying in the bushes, which is very unusual in the middle of the day. So it does mean we have to be that much more careful, that much more aware when we're on foot. Nice question. Thank you, Maggie. Let us drive down the way here. And we'll go and look at the first place those little cubs were seen on Juma and see if they haven't come up into that area again. Otherwise, we may have to go and look for something else. The area is distressingly quiet on the sighting. Sorry about that signal breakup. Not unusual in this area, and especially not with a bushwalk backpack. You may lose us as we go down the next hill. If you do, I'm sorry, but the last time I walked here it was fine, so we should be all right. Let's see. Dave, I forgot to put my leggy blanket back on. My poor little leggies. Oh, Scott, what a nice question. You say, I think if I heard you correctly, if the cubs get lost, will they find their mother? How will they find their mother? You say, you know she can find them, but how will they learn the area? I don't know the exact method. I don't think they could find her. I'm sure that if she decided to move, I don't know, a kilometre away, and I don't think they'd be able to find her at all. But I don't know that she doesn't teach them the area. I think it's just experience walking around an area. I also think that there's, there's animals' home. You know, they have a sense of direction and ability to get to places they've been before that we as human beings simply do not. Or most of us don't. You know that dogs, you hear the stories of dogs getting lost and finding their way back to homes that they were at years and years previously, having had no experience of the route of how to get there. They just, somehow, there's something in their bodies that gives them that incredible directional sense. And animals out here have that especially. If you watch Karula, she is, the way she walks away, she goes off somewhere else and walks back to where those cubs are. They're looking around. I think it's amazing. Jamie's got an interesting bird. We're going down the hill.
We've actually, in theory, got a couple of interesting birds. It's just that most of them are very small and very subtle. But we've got this gorgeous crested barbet warming himself up in the morning sun. A bird feeding party and not a leopard feeding party, which was the update I was hoping I could give to you. I don't know how the Queen has managed to pull such a sneaky maneuver, but she's not here. As to where she is, well, unfortunately, your guess is as good as mine at this point, because I definitely have absolutely no idea. I've followed her tracks right up until they disappear. I've checked under every tree, every bush. I've checked in every tree and every bush, and I don't know where she's gone. She's clearly pulled some kind of mysterious Karula-style disappearing act. So, a crested barbet. For new viewers, we always encourage you to start up a little bit of a bird list, keep track of all of the marvelous little birds that we do see out here. And there's a couple of little ones, and I'm hoping I can get you a view, because we don't often get a nice sighting of them. A unusual colour that they are, a very, very bright blue, and that is the blue wax bills that are on the ground. And I'm going to find you one now. There's one on the right-hand side of the road, just underneath the little bush that's sticking up right in this corner of the road. A little bit too... Oh, have you got one there, Brian? Well done. There's actually a whole lot of them hopping around. The beautiful bright blue waxbills that have been accompanying me on my trekking expedition, keeping me company and occasionally causing a brief rustling of leaves that's made me turn around once or twice in the hope that I had come upon Karula and her cubs. But unfortunately, no luck for now. We'll have to just keep circling the area and trying. Perhaps she has crossed south. I'm not sure how she managed it, but perhaps she did. Perhaps she managed to escape us somehow. There's our little foraging blue waxbill. And then, just to conclude our bird watching moment, there is a beautiful greater blue-eared star that is now sitting where the crested barbet was, but we're bouncing all over the place to have a look at our bird feeding party. And there we go. Just have a look at this incredible colouring in the morning sun. That incredible incandescence that the starlings have. There's lots of, speaking of birds, there's lots of go-away birds calling, but to the east of us. Maybe Karula moved only in the drainage lines, and perhaps it's her that they are alarm calling at. We're going to spread our search a little bit further afield and see if I can't pick up on where her tracks must have left this area. They must have, because she's not here. Because short of stepping on her and not seeing her, there's no way I could have missed her here. There we go, having a bit of a preen, spreading the preen, the oil that comes from the preening gland, that waterproofs their feathers and keeps them glossy, shiny and in place, and also helps to stop the build-up of parasites. These birds, just like any other animal out here, pick up mites, parasites, ticks, fleas, and the regular preening helps to prevent that. Looks as though it's a bit breezy up there. Very puffed up and very, very chilly. I'm not sure whether James is giving you the update on the Game Drive channel. I know that it's probably difficult for him to... Oh, what have we got there? There's our crested barbet, making a marvellous appearance. Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? Sort of red blush almost to his face and chest, and then the bright contrasting yellow, black and red. And there you go, giving us a very clear indication of why it's called the crested barbet. The crest fluttering at the top there. Then just an update on our lion situation and on the Game Drive channel. The guys have found one... Oop, bye-bye. The guys have found 3 Nkuhuma lionesses and 1 Birmingham boy to the north of our Traverse area. So for Lynn and for the many others that sent through the updates about the lions roaring on the Djuma Dam camera and could hear them, we heard them all night. We've accounted for at least 4 of them that were vocalizing throughout the evening. That is where they are, to the north of where we can drive. Okay, let us go and figure out how Karula managed to escape us. Joey's got an idea as to how we've missed out on finding where Karula went. He thinks perhaps lions and leopards are jumping over the roads in order to prevent leaving tracks. I've often said that before. It's a very regular joke between various field guides about the ways in which the lions and the leopards can trick us. Yes, they definitely can jump far enough. A leopard like Karula could spring over this road from a standing start without even thinking about it. Oh. Herbert! My hero! Hi, guys. She's here somewhere. Good morning. Sorry, guys. Let me just chat to Herbert. Morning, everybody.
Morning, Jimmy.
Morning, Herbert. Good, thanks. How are you?
There's some tracks that are from the Shibamu Junction.
Yeah,
They went south.
they went south. But these are so, I mean, Nkonzo back there are so fresh and they go into the Skorva. Yeah, I've been walking there. I can't find her. I don't know where she's gone. But to me, these look fresh.
The ones that you had that side are same other thing. Just markets.
No, mother's there too. Yeah, you'll see I marked the last track where she went north or northeast on a game path.
Did you check Shibamu side?
No, I'm going to go there now. But she walked. I don't know where she went. I've been walking, I've been looking under every bush.
To the west of Shibamu, there's tracks of the mother going north.
Okay.
She might have had a kid somewhere in the block.
I think she's got a kill somewhere here. I think she brought them back. I think she went in that way and she's brought them back this way. But I'm looking still. Do you want to come past? Sorry guys, I'm just having a little bit of a chat to Herbert. I'm hoping, given his incredible success rate with finding Karula, he might be able to give me a hand. I think that Herbert agrees with me. No, I mean, these are fresh. These are not old tracks. She's here somewhere, guys. I just have a feeling. These are fresh tracks. Look, with the babies and everything. I don't want to leave just yet. Herbert's doing a U-turn. He's going to go and search for her. We're going to carry on searching for her. Joey, I think Karula walks backwards. That's what I think. I think Karula and the lions, they have a little quiet chuckle to themselves at night and go, how can we mess with the people today? I think I'm going to walk backwards down the road just to make things extra specially confusing. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's... Or else, there's one very devious person with a leopard track stamp that comes through and goes this along the road at night when we're all asleep. There's all kinds of marvelous ways. Or Karula's got secret portholes somewhere. Secret wormholes, maybe tunnels underground. What do we all think? Maybe that's the solution. Maybe she's got secret underground passages. Like true royalty. Oh dear. Okay, well, she's not still here. Or at least she's not in this block, and I'll tell you why. On top of a tree, surveying the area. Oh, it is going to be very tricky to get you a view. I think if I go forward... You got it. Thank you. This is what I mean when I say that sitting on top of the tree, surveying the area, a very sharp-eyed primate, a very relaxed, sharp-eyed primate. Oh, are we having a morning snooze? I think this monkey's got the way to do it. Having a little bit, oh, I'm awake. Dozing in the morning sunlight. Quick scratch. Excuse me, I don't suppose you've seen a leopard. I bet you have at some point. You probably know exactly where the leopard is. Not concerned in any way. It's time for a morning sunbathing session, a quick scratch, and possibly some grooming. Looking very comfortable. Now, the reason I say that the leopard is not here is if it was, the monkeys of this area would be going. They're very typical alarm call. Whenever I do it, I sound like Donald Duck. Brent definitely does a better impression. Brian probably does a better impression than I do.
I can do a decent one.
Can you do a decent one for us, Brian? Oh! Hey, look, even looked at Brian in response. Okay, Brian definitely does a better, as usual, Brian's imitations are absolutely marvelous. He's had a a black-bellied bustard respond to him before, and a hornbill. And a hornbill. So Brian definitely, I think, wins in terms of the Wild Earth staff members that do animal impressions. Sorry, Herbert's trying to call me. Go ahead, Herbert. If he's found her, I'm going to be overjoyed and also cry. Hold on a second. We've been interrupted mid-conversation. We'll just wait for a moment until that conversation is finished. At least we've got this lovely view of the vervet monkey doing exactly what I think Brian and I will be doing in a moment, which is finding the best patch of sun and sunbathing there. Those alarm calls still going on. It's warm enough now that the getaway birds could be calling in response to a bird of prey. But there's lots of quack, quack. Go ahead, Herbert. Sorry, guys. Let me just finish off chatting to him. Copy that. Thank you, Herbert. Okay, so Herbert's found tracks of a male as well, and he thinks that might be a reason why she might have disappeared without a trace. That makes a little bit of sense if she tried to move the cubs away. Even a male leopard, the Tingana, that may well be the father, she's still going to be extra specially careful. Sorry to Alice in Ohio, and good morning to you as we watch our monkey enjoy the rays of the morning sun. What do monkeys eat? Well, monkeys are, their diet is mainly herbivorous, just in terms of what they can find, but they are omnivores. They are capable of eating both meat and plant matter. They eat roots, shoots, leaves, berries. They really do enjoy the fruits of the various trees, the pods and seeds of different plants, and they'll also feed off, when they groom themselves, you'll watch them, you'll see them eat the ticks that they pull off their skin. They have also even been known to raid nests of birds and steal eggs and chicks. The monkeys are relatively very clever little omnivores, very, very adaptable in terms of their diet. They also like to come and hang around human camps. They learn very quickly that human beings mean food. And we've got, I mean, even though we're very careful at camp in terms of where we put our rubbish and our food, we've got a troop of monkeys that pays a pretty much daily visit to come and see whether there's the possibility of knocking over a dustbin or perhaps a banana peel or something that they can nibble on. That is the sort of general diet of a monkey. Monkeys are incredibly sharp-eyed, and they do, like our mongoose family, they do often take responsibility for keeping an eye out for the entire family. Now, Shamson, you were wondering, is it one monkey that takes the sentry duty, or will it be a different one every time? The answer is there will be certain individuals that will probably accept that responsibility more than the others. I want to know where the rest of this monkey's troop is, because I can only see one monkey. The rest of them must be a little bit hidden in this thick block somewhere around here. But Shamsun, it's apparently, from what I've read, there seems to be some evidence to suggest that the sub-adult monkeys often take on that responsibility, as well as one of the more dominant males, the dominant adult males. But they're all very, very alert. So it's not a sort of a one-sentry position all the time. They'll often just all be keeping an eye on whatever's happening around them. And the noisy calls of the arrow-marked babblers filling our morning with their calls. Okay. All right. let us continue onwards since Herbert is here to help us. He can keep track of them. Where the arrow marked babblers. Brian's managed to find them. Well done, Brian. The name babbler, of course, describes the giggling sound that they make, and there we've got a brief view of why they're called arrow marked. If this babbler decides to, never mind, it's going to say turn around and face us, but it's completely disappeared from view, but the little white arrow mark shapes on their feathers. Right, let us go and investigate, see if we can't work out what's happening with Karula and Cubs. In the meantime, let's find out how James's morning is going.
I have found nothing, everybody. We have just been driving about the place. I found one black-crowned chagra with a caterpillar in its beak, but otherwise that has been the sole achievement of my morning, other than just sort of enjoying the very pleasant atmosphere that surrounds us. David still looks like a bank robber. Indeed, I think that one day he should display his rather impressive balaclava to you. It's very modern, David. Sort of blue rather than black and very tight. Yes. Yes, the kind of thing that an 80s bank robber would be very jealous of. Now, you'll notice I'm not holding the steering wheel. This is not because I'm trying to be clever, it's because my hands are very cold and so I'm sitting on them, hoping that the warmth of my bottom will unfreeze my frost-bitten little fingers. The car is very kindly driving itself along the Mowati drainage line, where I was hoping to see some lions playing with their cubs just in the sand in a patch of golden sunlight. Instead, no, instead it's just sand in the golden sunlight. So a little bit further along, Twin Dam.
Oopsie daisy, it seems as though we lost James there for a moment. As you can imagine, as we always say, bringing you a live safari from the middle of the African bush comes with certain technological challenges, and it appears as though he's just hit a little bit of a signal black hole. But never fear, we are still around, we've still got signal, and we are still searching for Karula, because I, at the moment, refuse to give up just yet. She might be south. As Herbert said, if there was a male in the area, she might have ducked away. And Felicity in New Zealand, in terms of Karula perhaps moving away from a male that she's seen, how would she be aware of the presence of a male? And the answer is she might actually pick up on their scent marking and their smell. So you know how even if the leopard hadn't marked his territory, even if he hadn't urine scent marked, you know how leopards scrape their feet when they urinate, when they spray their territory? And what purpose that serves, apart from sort of scratching the ground and spreading the scent a little bit, is it actually puts the smell of the leopard on their feet. So when they walk, they leave something like a scent trail behind. So it's kind of like when somebody's wearing a great deal of perfume and they've left a room and you can still smell them around that area. That's what it's like for leopards in terms of the way that they can smell and the way that they interpret the world. Now, that is probably one of the best ways that a leopard will pick up on another leopard. She might even have heard him if it was a territorial male moving through an area. He might have called. But animals do have a far better sense of where other animals are than we do, just because their senses are so much more refined than ours. I saw movement up in the top of that very green tree at the back there, and I don't know if it was a bird. or if there's something hiding there. I just want to stop and double check. I really don't want to run the risk of driving past them if they're somewhere here. And there's a good chance that Karula's little cubs, who are now proficient tree climbers, might seek refuge in a tree like that. It's a perfect leopard tree. And I don't think that's a leopard at all. I think it's a bird. Did you see that, Brian?
Yeah, I did.
No, that's a bird. Never mind. At least I did see movement. But it's not a leopard. It is a maybe hornbill fluttering about there. Okay, well, at least James's search for signal appears to have gone well. He's back up and running. Let's go see what he has to tell you.
But where is he? But where is he, do you suppose? There he is. Hello. I've come up here to... here on bushwalk. Can you hear me now? Coming, wait. Can you hear me now, David? I'm coming, I'm coming. Now, my yelling there, everybody echoed through the bushveld, and if I know Herbert's around here, and so's Jamie, and they must be wondering what's going on. I saw this the other day on bushwalk there, and it's called a bracket fungus. And what I just wanted to fetch was a sample. And so let me just flip it around like this. See amazing golden colours. Stunning. I don't think they're edible. As far as I'm aware, they're completely inedible. Look at that. And there are a whole lot of worms inside there. You see that, Dave?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what the hair is. I'm assuming that it's probably fungal mycelia. In other words, part of the fungus. But it seems to be a nest of some kind of grub that is going to hatch into a large adult insect at some stage. Anyway, I didn't take it all off. I just broke a piece off. I didn't think that there would be all sorts of other things in there. Could be toxic, so not going to sort of take a bite. There was something of vital importance I wanted to tell you about this that had relevance to Saturday morning. Oh yes, I think it's the thought of a fry-up with mushrooms for breakfast a little bit later on. That's what I wanted to tell you. So that's the bracket fungus. It's called a bracket fungus because it sits like a shelf in the side of the tree. And the only way it gets into the tree is through the attentions or the scraping away of the bark by elephants. And the last time I came past this tree in a vehicle, there was an elephant standing exactly where you saw me. Just peeped my head round the side of that tree. There was an elephant there. Amazing that it's got up there. It's hooked away some bark with its trunk, tusks, and that's opened up an area for the bracket fungus to get into, and that's how the bracket fungus mycelia or spores have got in there. The mycelia, which are like the roots, have then spread out, and the fungus has grown. That's the story of the Saturday bracket fungus, David. Sore amazed, I know you must be. Now, we're going to head down towards Twin Dams, see what we can find there. As I was saying to you before, I was rudely interrupted by a lack of signal earlier. I found one chagra eating a caterpillar, and a chagra is a little shrike-like bird. But what is interesting is that there are still caterpillars around. And both Jamie and I were the beneficiaries of Herbert's great eyes, our bushwalks the last 2 mornings, also finding caterpillars. What they're eating now, I couldn't tell you. Now, let's ease our way down to Twin Dams. And see what there we can find. Because at the moment, things are a little quiet out. Right, two lovely questions about smell, one from Miss and one from Safari Dean. Miss, can you just quickly, not Miss, Jerry, can you just give me Mrs. one again so that I don't get it wrong? So you want to know, Miss, which animal has the strongest sense of smell, and then Safari Dean sort of dovetailed with that. You want to know why it is that human beings seem to have lost their very sensitive sense of smell. Miss, I would say lots of animals have very powerful senses of smell out here. I'd say probably hyenas have the strongest. They are able to smell carcasses apparently at about 5 kilometers. I've watched Mvula track down a leopard, at least a zebra carcass from 2.5 to 3 kilometers. He smelt that, and I imagine a hyena is probably almost able to do it maybe 1.5 times that distance. Yeah, so let's say 5 kilometers, which is about 3.5 miles. And why, Safari Dean, you want to know, there's a duiker. It's running away, David. Obviously, it's running away so fast. It's leaving a dust cloud. You see it there? It's just on the right-hand side of that thicket. You got him there. There we go. Now, Safari Dean, why is it that human beings have lost their ability to smell? Oh, the duiker has now absconded. Oh, we haven't, but we have. It sounds like a very silly answer. You actually are able to smell and sense things and interpret scent a lot more than you think you're able to. Yes, there's no question our noses are not nearly as sensitive as those of a hyena or of an elephant or a buffalo, which will smell us from many miles away, but they're still extremely important to us. Why have we lost that sense of smell? It's just not as important to our hunting. It's not as important to our defense. Because we live and have lived now in sedentary communities where it's far more our sight that is our sense of defense, and we don't hunt by smell, we hunt by sight almost exclusively. So that's why the necessity of having a very complex olfactory mechanism has reduced slightly. But, and I've said this a couple of times, our sense of smell is much stronger than many of us think it is. And you have only to think about the familiarity that some people smell like to you, so you know that when you hug a member of your family, they smell like home. You also know that smells from your childhood and smells from will trigger memories in your body. Now that is an indicator of how powerful our smell actually still is. It doesn't necessarily mean that in our sort of urbanized society that it helps us to survive, because I don't think it makes a huge difference to our survival rate. But it does mean that if you took us back, if you put us into the bush, say, I don't know, before the advent of agriculture, 12,000 years ago, if you tossed us into the bush, you'd find that those senses of smell, those same things that trigger off those memories, that same sensitivity to other people's smells, would absolutely be crucial to our survival. Let us drive onto the wall here, mainly because it affords us a lovely piece of sun on our faces. Oh, that's so nice, David, is it not? Now, this is a different dam. We're at Twin Dams now, far southern end of Djuma. HKP, you want to know about whether birds have a sense of smell. Birds absolutely have a sense of smell, and but they do use sight as well. The most obvious example of a bird or two birds, two groups of birds that use sight and smell differently would be a vulture, a New World vulture and an Old World vulture. New World vulture would be something that you in the States, here comes a hornbill. There we go. A New World vulture, you'd call in the States a buzzard, but yeah, the condor, the Andean condor is part of that group, and they hunt, believe it or not, almost exclusively by smell. And they do that because they hunt over the rainforests, and so sight is almost useless to them there because of the close canopy. Our vultures, because it's relatively open here, and if you look at this area from the air, it looks pretty open. Our vultures hunt exclusively by sight and not by smell. So yes, birds do have a very sensitive sense of smell. It's not necessarily always that sensitive, but they certainly do use their smell quite a lot. I'm not entirely sure why I got out of the car. I'm going to get back in now, and then we're going to carry on our merry way. I picked up the stick. I thought I might be able to tell you something about it, but I cannot. David, do you have anything to say about the stick? No. Let's put it there. Maybe I'll think of something as we go along. It's very nice and warm in the sun. The startling lack of mammals continues to astound me. You want to know what smell I remember from my childhood? Justin, I think the thing that triggers memories most oft to me is the smell of wood smoke on a fire. A wood-smoked fire, and I suppose to some extent an anthracite fire, take me back to memories of cold winter nights in the mountains in August, and the wonderful memories of, you know, family holidays that we had there. That's certainly one that strikes me very strongly. I have a memory of I had a girlfriend at one stage of my life. I was a young man, in the sort of ages of 21 and 23 or 4, and she was
Oh, well, it seems as though James's signal has disappeared once again. However, you've found us on our way to the east towards Cheetah Plains. I've given up on Karula for now. Hopefully she does decide to make an appearance, maybe towards the end of the sunrise safari or on the sunset safari. But I think for now, let's go and see what's happening on Cheetah Plains, since this morning seems to be a little bit quiet. The animals all hiding away on this Saturday. Can't have every day being full of surprises and full of animals. That would just be too easy. We've got to keep us working and keep us guessing to make those special sightings even more special. Just distracted by tracks there, but nothing terribly important. Wandering along the road, it's just a mishmash of different hooves that made them look like paw prints. Oh, just an update from Cheetah Plains side. There were tracks of a male leopard crossing into Nkoro, so the property to the north of our traverse area on Cheetah Plains. I don't know whether that was Shumbambalana or Quarantine, both of whom were seen yesterday on Cheetah Plains, having a little bit of a standoff between two generations of at least half-brothers, if not full brothers, of different generations, both sons of Karula, one slightly older, one slightly younger. I'm not sure which of them moved off first, but there's still a very good chance that one of them is around on Cheetah Plains itself. So that's what we're going to go look for, and then of course always on Cheetah Plains the chance of bumping into some cheetah. Brent tells me that they were seen on Mala Mala yesterday, just out of our view. Hopefully they've decided to come north as well, and that Cheetah Plains might afford us some better luck. Luck better than Vuatela has, at least for now. Okay, let's go and investigate. Oh, already? Hello, elephants. And good morning to you. Can I come get a nice view of you? Hi, guys. It's okay. Hello. Hey, big girl. Moving, surrounded now by a herd of elephants. Got a little one walking up with Mom. Mom's stopping to grab a quick snack. This bush willow woodland, it's a combination of bush willow and raisin leaf. Not all that easy considering how much the leaves have lost their nutrition. It actually died off almost completely. And they won't linger long here. Why, did you get a trunk full of leaves, little one? Little female calf. You can immediately tell that from her behavior, just by the fact that she didn't look too much in our direction, scurrying across to the safety of the rest of the herd. Generally, the little female calves are a bit more retiring than the males, a bit more shy. You can really see just how dry what these elephants are feeding on is. That's a red bush willow that she's currently consuming, and they're going to have to eat much more of it than they might in summer to sustain their enormous body size. And the fluttering of the drongo, for those of you who are sharp-eyed and keeping an eye on what's going on. Always a pretty much constant companion to elephant herds like this. Little calf now feels much safer because probably Mom is right there. She's very young, the mother. Yes, it is definitely Mom because the little calf is trying to suckle. You can see the difference between their foot size there. This must be her first baby. She's a very, very young female. And I can tell that just in terms of her size, as well as the area around the forehead and the temporal region. Young elephants, like young human beings, generally have more elastin in their skin, and therefore their bones not as prominent as they are on older elephants. Hey, look at that! How cool is that? A resting foot place, giving us a chance to see the fine lines and cracks that run through the sole of an elephant foot. Our ellies are moving off, and James has got one of the most magnificent of all the raptor species.
There is a battalier, everyone, and this battalier is actually astoundingly close to the road and hasn't flown away. Its partner, they definitely live around here, this couple of battaliers. Its partner came up off the ground here, which led me to believe that there was something that had recently died somewhere around here. And the fact that this one is sitting still and not flying away, because normally they don't let us get this close to them, indicates that maybe there is something, maybe a snake they've killed or something like that. I don't think it's anything large, because the other one wouldn't have been on the ground if it had been something too big, or if there had been a predator present. Anyway, just enjoy the sight of that magnificent battalier. I think that's just wonderful. I think that's the male. I can't see exactly. Let me have a look with my binoculars. No, I think that's the female. See, you've got the brown all the way down the wing. Very beautiful. That very hooked beak, indicative of the raptors, and that red face. They really are very special birds. And you can see the primary flight feathers there. They're the ones just sticking out the bottom of the branch there. And those stick out. Look at him walking, her walking. You see how they stick out beyond where the tail extends. And that is immediately, if you've never seen a batelier before, it's immediately indicative of this very short-tailed eagle. And that sound, I don't know if you can hear it. The whole flock of oxpeckers flying past on their way to find a herd of buffalo or some nyala or impala to sit on. Amazing how a bird is able to turn its head so far around. It's 180 degrees there. And constantly just making little adjustments, preening the feathers. And watching us very carefully. Taking oil from the glands underneath the neck there, and then spreading that oil throughout the feathers. Making sure that all the barbs and barbules and barbicels of the flight feathers are stuck together perfectly, so that when she does eventually take off today, she doesn't plummet to the ground, unfortunately. Wonderful. Thank you, Candace in Cape Town. You say that you've complimented my vocabulary. Thank you, that's very kind. You say you'd like to add to it with the word apricity, which apparently, and I had no idea that this is the case, apricity meaning the warmth of the sun on a cold winter's day. Apricity. I shall try and remember that. That might be right up there with the petrichor. Apricity. Thank you very much for that, Candace. Apricity. David, do you feel the apricity of the morning?
I do.
And sitting here, there's very apricitous. I'm not sure if apricitous is a word. Alrighty, let's move on from here. Let's see what else we can see. We're doing a last pass through the eastern sections of Djuma, and after our last pass here, we're going to go towards Treehouse Dam, where Jamie began her drive, simply because we're not convinced where Karula's gone. She's headed off to Cheetah Plains to see if she can find something there. We, on the old Maggie, the Mahindra, can't go anywhere other than Djuma at the moment, and so we'll go back into that area. I think maybe we'll be lucky. Herbert is around there, so let's go and have a look-see. We could also, of course, attempt the hyena den. Ah, yes. Sorry, my story that I was telling you about my olfactory senses, my sense of smell. I had a girlfriend, like I said to you, and she and I had, I think, what can only be described as a tempestuous relationship. We've all had those relationships in our time. We weren't very good for each other, let's put it that way. Anyway, she wore a very distinctive, very subtle but distinctive deodorant. And whenever I smell that, I'm taken right back to those tumultuous times. And I know that many of you will have that experience, where you'll smell an aftershave that you haven't smelled for a long time, perhaps, and maybe it was the same one your father wore, or your father does wear, and that'll immediately trigger memories. And I just think that our olfactory senses are much more powerful than we think they are. And, I mean, if you go even further into it, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the way we select mates as human beings has a lot to do with our olfactory senses, and that we're actually able to tell the parasite resistance of potential partners by their smell, totally subconsciously, so that if somebody smells right to you, it's normally because they're resistant to a different suite of parasites from the ones that you are resistant to, and therefore your children, should you have any, will be resistant to both the ones you are resistant to and the ones that your sweet-smelling partner is resistant to. So listen to your nose, everybody. Be good for your kids. There's some impala, David. Can you believe it? Zach, in Canada, you say if we had a sense of smell like a hyena's, what kind of environment would we be forced to live in, or what could we live in? How would it advantage us? Zach, a hyena, of course, is a scavenger. That's why it's got such a powerful sense of smell. They are hunters as well, but they do scavenge a great deal. And so I suppose it would allow us to be more effective scavengers. We would also be able to smell potential partners at 200 paces, which would be very good, I think. Zach, I'm trying to think on how else it would benefit us. You know, now in our current society, I don't think it will. I think it would. But if we had a very powerful sense of smell and we lived in the bush still, say we were Stone Age human beings, and suddenly we developed a very powerful sense of smell, I think that would give us a much greater advantage to finding carcasses and that sort of thing. And of course, human beings at their advent, well, there's a large school of thought that says that we became bipedal to take advantage of the plains of East Africa and the death that happens there by natural causes, and that we learnt to move around in the middle of the day and over such vast distances to scavenge. And I imagine then if we had very powerful senses of smell, that job would have been that much easier. But we didn't really need it, because by then, of course, we developed fairly large brains and good eyesight and cooperation. I hope does that answer your question, Zach? If it doesn't, please send it again and tell me to stop being silly. It's getting rather warmer now. The apricity is marvelous. And someone called Van Buren in Missouri, is that right? Van Buren in Missouri? You say this must be quite a smelly adventure, seeing all the dung on the ground, and does it not make it smelly? Not at all. You know, the herbivore dung that you're seeing here is almost universally quite pleasant smelling once it gets a little bit older, and it's really not like driving through a field of dog dung, for example, or hyena dung, which would be extremely unpleasant. Lion dung, of course, as well, disgusting stuff. So no, the herbivore dung is like driving through sort of very subtle scented potpourri. Yes, the apricity is definitely taking over now. It's very, very pleasant. Thank you, Candice from Cape Town. The reason I keep repeating the word apricity is because if I don't, I will forget it. So I'll probably say it another 40 or 50 times during the course of this apricitous morning. David, until recently, was enjoying the apricity by lying on the back seat in which he is supposed to be filming me from. This is because the position at which the camera is perched is very uncomfortable for him. So he made do by relaxing, reclining like a Roman on a sofa, appreciating the apricity of a very warm Italian morning. Brian makes a very, very good point here. And it opens up another topic. Brian, you say that there are people in Scotland that have their senses of smell insured, and they are whiskey tasters and blenders, and thank goodness for them in the world, I'd say. I mean, that's got to be one of the most valuable professions the world has, those of the blenders of fine whiskies. And Brian, you say that they have their noses insured. Of course they do, and they would. And it's an indication actually of how very sensitive our noses really are. Because I know that for most of us, the taste of red wine and whiskey, especially whiskey, if you're not a whiskey drinker. Sorry, I'm just trying to find something to help me remove this branch. And we'll try to do it with my hands, but it is very thorny. Brian, yes, of course, to create wines and whiskies, you've got to have a tremendously sensitive sense of smell, as well as a tremendously sensitive sense of taste. And they're inescapably interlinked. Oh, this is going to hurt. There we go, David. Look how stout I am. And is it off yet? Now? There we go. And Brian, that's a throwback. It's obviously something you can teach yourself, but it's a throwback to our evolutionary past. So we must have used our noses more effectively than we did. And I guess many of us have got that ability. Many of us probably don't have it as effectively as others, in the same way that some people don't see so good, and some people do see much better. So that's a real interesting, I think that's actually a fascinating point, and it shows us how sensitive our noses can be. I have not insured my nose. Have you, David?
Nope.
Ah, yes. The smell of the morning, we haven't discussed that, of course, is very delicious. It smells very fresh. A little bit of dust hanging in the air from the cold front that passed through yesterday. But otherwise, it just smells very freshly of crisp winter. So crisply of fresh winter that there is nothing here. Right, let's go and find out from Jamie if there are any more mammals on Cheetah Plains.
Well, so far no mammals on Cheetah Plains, but there must have been at one point at least one female leopard walking straight towards 3 in a row pan. And I say that because I have encountered her tracks. And they look, I hesitate to say it now because my leopard tracking this morning hasn't quite gone according to plan. They look very fresh. Probably in Kanyeni. The female leopard that I have yet to encounter, I think I'm the last one of all of the presenters that have yet to see her. Brian, have you seen her?
I've seen it.
A few times.
Twice.
Twice. Right, 2 more times than I've seen her. So she's got to be somewhere here. Please let the leopard tracking go slightly better than it did first thing this morning. But yes, all is quite quiet otherwise on Cheetah Plains. Mammal life appears to be relatively scarce. But the one thing we know is that there's very little water in the area at the moment, and we know the Cheetah Plains pan has been pumped, or 3 in a row pan has been pumped. Let us go and investigate and see whether or not our female leopard came through for a drink. She's actually walked off the road now, or her tracks have been walked over by another animal. Oh, there's an interesting smell coming from 3 in a row pan. I know you've been discussing pleasant childhood smells with James. I'm not sure I would describe this as pleasant. It's quite unpleasant actually. But this is the northernmost pan of 3 in a row pan, and it's full of water for the first time in a very, very long time. The elephants actually pulled out their pipes, from what I understand, making it impossible for them to pump every single pan in 3 in a row pan. But they appear to have remedied that, and I think that's the reason behind the smell. I think it's just because this pan has been dry for a while, and it's now got water in it. Oh, there's a leopard. Surprise! That was interesting. Hello, gorgeous. Hey, beautiful. Are you the lovely leopard that left the tracks behind? You don't look like a leopard that I have ever encountered before. Well, that was a pleasant surprise. Hey, guess what? My leopard tracking did go better than I expected. Let's go find out who's resting up on this termite mound. How wonderful! What wonderful luck we have had. Hey, high five, Brian. Hey, it just goes to show you never know what to expect on a live safari, and when you are chatting about the smell of a pan, you might want to lift your head up and look elsewhere, for there may well be a leopard there. I'm just going to pop my car into low range. I don't know this leopard, and I always have an approach with animals that I'm unfamiliar with, to just approach very cautiously as I might if it were a skittish leopard. It's not a skittish leopard, clearly, but because I don't know it, I do just want to have an extra level of caution. Who on earth have we got here? Hello. Aren't you gorgeous? This must be... Ooh, I'm about to drive into the pan itself. This is not a female, so there's still a female hiding in this area. This is not a female. Is this quarantine? I have never met this leopard before. I need your help, guys. Who have we got here? Which leopard have we got? I think this is quarantine. My very first time seeing him. I think it's him, and I'm absolutely thrilled. Hello, boy. It is a pleasure to meet you. Aren't you absolutely gorgeous? I'm just trying to think if there's a better way to view him in terms of repositioning the vehicle, just so that Brian's got a slightly better view of his face. It's definitely not his tracks that we were looking at earlier. So there we go. It seems that general consensus is that this is quarantine, and I couldn't be more thrilled because this is the first time that I have seen him. I have never ever... Quarantine did used to... I mean, he grew up on Djuma, and he dispersed with his brother Kunuma just before I started working for Wild Earth. And then he keeps making appearances every time I'm on leave. Every time I'm on leave, he decides to come onto Djuma, catch a kudu or something similar, and then when I return, he disappears. So to see him is an absolute pleasure. I was just quite surprised that I didn't notice beforehand. Absolutely wonderful, and James doing a fantastic job of calling it in to give me a hand. And he's blinking sleepily in the sun. So yesterday, as I mentioned, he had a slight confrontation with Shimbambalana, his older brother, another leopard that I have yet to see. I'm not sure what the outcome was. I think probably there, as with most leopard conflicts, it was resolved by one of them walking away. Leopard fights are relatively rare. Sorry, I'm listening to elephants in the distance. Something's upset them terribly. Oh, goodness. Very upset. Okay, I just need to call this in on the Eastern channel. James has called it in on our Northern Game Drive channel, and there's lots of chatter happening in my ear, so I just need to be able to turn one of them off. Morning stations, 1 Milorder Ingwe at static at 3 in a row pan. There we go. Oh, never mind. That went through to poor old Jerry and the lovely Kirsty in final controls, because we've got too many radios here. And that's of course why I need to just maneuver things. Sorry everybody. We will get back to talking about this amazing male leopard in a moment. I do just need to call this in. Morning stations, one Medora Ingwe static 3 in a row pan. And I presume everybody heard me, and if they didn't, oh well, there's not much more I can do about it for now. He's found himself the perfect patch where he's hidden in the shade. Now, just going back to the Shambambalana and quarantine conflict, most leopard arguments are settled relatively peacefully. There's a lot of growling, a lot of posturing, but they actually very, very seldom come to blows. Things are going to change, though, as quarantine starts to grow older. So at the moment, he's not really at his... He hasn't quite reached his prime. He will be much smaller than Shambambalana in terms of just weight, and he isn't yet ready to compete for territory here, or he might be. It does all depend on attitude, and of course his twin brother Kunuma famously, it was suggested, caused some serious trouble in Londolozi with one of their dominant male leopards. But chances are he's going to remain relatively subservient to Shambambalana for now. But that is going to change. Shambambalana has established this as his territory, as he is dominant in this area. And things will be interesting when quarantine in about a year and a half, maybe even less than, maybe even a year's time, where the two of them are going to be of relatively equal size, and the conflict becomes a little bit more tricky. It remains to be seen exactly how that's going to play out. But fortunately, Wild Earth will be here to follow the story. And what an absolute wonderful surprise this sighting has been. I wonder where the female is, because it definitely was not male leopard tracks that I saw earlier in terms of their size. Oh, he's looking up. I wonder, I believe that when Brent was with him yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that he was actually looking quite hungry. I wonder whether or not he's managed to obtain a meal or not. Hello, boy. This is so awesome. Look at those incredible eyes of his. Sort of a light jadish color. It always is such a pleasure encountering new leopards. We love seeing our characters and our well-known and our well-loved characters, but for us it is incredibly exciting whenever we get to see or meet a new character, especially one like Quarantine that I've heard so much about. That intense leopard stare that he's currently fixed upon us, before finding a more comfortable spot to snooze. And he's big. He's much bigger than I expected him to be. I don't know why. I mean, I just had an image in my head of Quarantine, having seen photos from when I first started here. Brent showed me photos of Quarantine and Kunuma, and it's obviously a year later, a year's worth of growing. He has definitely starting to develop that really thick neck of a full-grown male. Okay. Just shifting to a more comfortable spot and making life slightly more tricky. And let us reposition and see if we can't get another view of his head, although there's his lovely tail now visible to us. Stretched out, and his spot is perfect because it's got a little bit of shade and it's also sheltered from the wind that it started to blow once again. Seems as though whenever I make a trip across to Cheetah Plains, the wind starts to howl. Okay, let's reposition so we can have a view of his face. Hold on a second, I'm stuck in my blanket. Bear with me. It's wrapped around my legs to keep me warm in the long Cheetah Plains trip. Now, Quarantine and Kanuma, from what I've heard, are actually okay, so he came from in here. So the female that we were tracking was a little bit further to the north, and I wonder where she went off to. I wonder what the relationship between Inkanyeni and Quarantine is like. While we shift about to see what he is staring at intently, let's go across briefly to James to see what he's found.
Well, that is a severe stroke of luck that we've all had, everyone. Well, I say we. I like to include myself in these things. Of course, I am not viewing Quarantine male leopard. I am viewing some Egyptian goose. 2 Egyptian geese, a number of ring-necked doves, some black Smith lapwings, and also... Can you hear that, Dave? The tick, 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 tick. It's a very strange noise. Hang on. I think it must be the geese. It is, it's the geese. I think it's the geese's beaks going tick, 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 as they look through the water. That's amazing. Then also at the far end of the dam is a grey heron who is making out like a duck. I've never seen a heron sitting in the water like that. So what he's doing, I don't know. But probably waiting for a fish of some sort to come by so he can stab it and eat it. It's all rather peaceful. There's also a 3-banded plover here, which I'm not going to attempt to show you, with this current lens, which is a bit short for birding. Anyway, that is the state of play here at the Buffelshoek Dam. Now, apparently there were lion tracks heading this way earlier today from the northern cut line, the Buffelshoek cut line. It's not too far from here. We're going to go around towards the east, see if we don't pick up something there. If we don't, then we'll head back sort of towards the hyena den. Maybe there's something there, but at least Jamie has managed to find her luck today. Here we go.
We have been incredibly lucky, repositioned ourselves with another view of Quarantine's face, and I think he's actually a little bit miserable. I think he's cold. Quarantine does have a very serious face. As I said, it's the first time I've ever seen him. Now, young male leopards are just absolutely stunning. They really, truly are. There's something extraordinary about them. They haven't quite reached the older stage where they've got the thick neck and the dewlap, and whilst a full-grown male leopard in his prime is impressive and magnificent and awe-inspiring, a young male leopard, to me, is the most beautiful of all of the leopard sort of the males and females. There's just something so perfect about them at this age. He's looking a little bit unsettled. I wonder if he didn't have another confrontation with Shimvambalana at some point in the evening. Shimvambalana's on Nkoro by the sounds of things. Perhaps there's something that occurred during the evening, or he's just hungry and a bit cold and trying to shelter away from the wind. Blinking sleepily in the morning light, this beautiful dappled colouring that we have happening here. It remains to be seen whether or not he's planning on spending the rest of his day here or if he's going to go hunting. Now, if he is hungry, he'll go off and search and most likely hunt something out here. But Wesley, our viewer in Durban, yes, absolutely, leopards do steal prey from other creatures. A leopard is not above scavenging in any way, shape or form. We've seen Tingana and Karula feeding off an old buffalo carcass before. It often happens that they scavenge. In certain circumstances, some leopards will scavenge as much as they kill. Some get very used to scavenging. They almost specialize in it. But they don't necessarily chase predators off it as often as we think. They will definitely, particularly a male leopard, he will chase a cheetah, one solitary cheetah, off a kill. And we saw it with Mvula during the Father's Day TV specials, which was an incredible sighting, where Mvula came racing in. Mvula, of course, potentially the father of Quarantine. He came bounding in and chased a hyena off the buffalo that it was feeding on. The most extraordinary moment. Brian and I were so taken by surprise that we actually didn't know what to do with ourselves. I think I sat with my mouth open for a good 30 seconds, just wondering if that really did happen. It was just such an intense day, that Saturday. Leopards do scavenge. They occasionally chase hyena off. There's not that much, though, that they will be able to overpower. So obviously they'd never think of challenging a lion. And as we saw with Mvula, challenging the hyenas didn't work out terribly well for him, because he had to then abandon the kill because the rest of the females returned in full force to chase him away. Absolutely, they won't think about challenging hyenas in greater numbers than that. They will steal kills from the smaller cats like serval and caracal if they happen upon them. And there's even some recorded cases of leopards chasing birds of prey out of trees or away from their kill and stealing whatever it is they've caught. It's a rare situation, but it does occur. And the different leopardize, that was a combination of two words that I did not mean to combine. Different leopards specialize, there we go, in different hunting techniques and different survival techniques, and some do become expert scavengers. Some become, like Tingana, expert tunnel and warthog hunters, going into burrows. Most leopards, however, have a combination of several different survival techniques. What's there, boy? Oh, you're just shifting a bit, get a bit more comfortable. And there we go, a good suggestion coming through from Aqua about maybe perhaps Quarantine is preparing a waterhole ambush, waiting for some hapless creature to come down and have a drink. And that is entirely possible. He's found the only piece of cover anywhere in the vicinity of 3 in a row pan. This really is the only hiding place he could adopt. And from his vantage point, he could actually sneak around either side of the Termount Mound, depending on which way prey approaches from. And I agree with you. First of all, I don't think he looks like he's eaten. It's difficult for me to tell, but he doesn't have that enormous round belly of a predator that's had some food. And we spoke before, in answer to Kat's question, about the drought and how much easier it makes the lives of the predators. The animals will be forced to come down to 3 in a row pan at some point. He's constantly alert. He's sniffing the air. That's one of the reasons why I made sure that I didn't block his vision completely, or his view completely, of where he can see. Well, he's essentially where Brent left him yesterday, or close to where Brent left him yesterday. Nevertheless, a marvelous surprise. And Aqua, absolutely, I think it's very much worth sitting here and waiting to see whether anything does decide to come down to drink. They're going to be extra specially cautious because it is very windy, and they know that predators are going to start taking advantage of these water points. And if I had to guess, I would say that they're going to approach from our left-hand side. And the reason I say that is because the wind is blowing in from my right. So they'll want to approach in a way that they can try and sniff out any waiting predators. Okay. just from where he's put himself, he's just placed the guarri bush branch across his eyes, so we don't have a view of his beautiful face. So I think we'll just shuffle forward just a fraction so that we can see him. Let's do that now. Oh, he's up. He's up. What's he looking at? Oh, it's an elephant. There's a whole elephant herd coming down. You can't see them for now. They're very, very well hidden, but he's heard them. And this is probably the elephants. These are probably the elephants that were making all of that noise. Right. Now, how is this situation going to play out? Is he going to... He's going to just turn around to watch them. Okay, let's shuffle round so that we can watch this situation play out. Okay, I know we've got the back of his head for now, but look at that. Elephants on one side and a leopard on the other. This is awesome. This is absolutely marvelous. Yours, make your way. I'm at the southernmost pan. Oh, I've got your visual. This is awesome. Look at this. How often do we get to see a leopard watching an entire herd of elephants come through to drink? They have no idea he's here. But if they carry on around to the other side of the pan, they will be about to find out. And yours coming to join us. This is absolutely wonderful. Most of you are familiar with yours. You know how much he loves his leopards. He is one of the landowners. Ooh. I think it's safe to say that these are our noisy leopards. Good, thank you, yours. How are you? Yo, they're about to find him. I think she's just realized there's something up. Elephants, of course, have an incredibly sensitive sense of smell. Right, Mr. Quarantine, if they decide to chase you, if you could please not run straight past us, so that we find ourselves with elephants barreling in our direction as well. So far, so good. Oh, one female that's not happy. She knows there's something. She doesn't know what it is. I wonder how this situation is going to play out. They might, of course, not notice him at all. And they're not really a threat to him, nor is he a threat to them. But there is the battle of herbivore and predator that plays itself out, and elephants don't take kindly to the presence of leopards in their space, or any of the predators. He could not be more unconcerned. And the elephants are on edge because the wind is blowing. There's one female in particular that hasn't quite found herself a comfortable spot yet to drink. I think that is because she is smelling him. The air is filled with the sound of slurping elephants. Having one very big drink. Oh, oh, oh. Uh-oh. Here we go. He hasn't been spotted yet. There's a good chance that the first thing to spot him will be an elephant calf, just because their eyesight is actually better than that of an adult elephant. I've seen it with baby rhino as well. They also see better than the adults do. Some pushing and shoving going on there. Hello, guys. I know. It's alright, girlie. I didn't cause any trouble. Okay, girl. Okay. It's alright. There's a leopard here. Please don't get a surprise and blame me for it. It's okay. That's a boy. That's why he's causing nonsense. That's okay, boy. Now that changes things. Wesley, do I think that these elephants feel threatened? Yes, I do. They're clearly upset by something. It's not us. It might be that they encountered another leopard elsewhere or another predator. It might just be the wind. But either way, no, this is not a comfortable herd of elephants. And they're about to spot him. I'm surprised that they haven't yet, but he's remaining completely still. How amazing is this? What an absolutely awesome shot. Two of Africa's most iconic animals. Absolutely extraordinary. And blue butterfrog. I'm saying, don't elephants dislike lions more than they dislike leopards? I'm not sure that they... Oh, there's an impala as well. It's going to want to come and drink, and he's going to wait until the elephants move off. And that's also going to add some interesting drama to the sighting that we have here. Oh, I think the elephants are actually going to move off in a different direction. And quarantine reigns supreme for now, at least in terms of his hiding skills. He has kept totally still and evaded the notice of the elephants. What you looking at, little boy? That little nonsense causer, he wants to chase the impala, which is very silly, because he's not going to get anywhere if he does that. The elephants are completely upwind. Remember how I said the wind is blowing from my right? The elephants are completely upwind of quarantine, and they have no idea that he's been watching them this entire time. But sorry to Blue Butterfrog, I got distracted. Yes, elephants dislike lions. I'm not sure that they dislike them more than leopards. Lions are just, I think, smellier. Oh, big yawn. Was that just so boring, quarantine? Not exciting watching a whole herd of elephants come and have a drink. Lions are very smelly. They are very pungent animals, so much so that we notice the difference as human beings. And I think because they're social creatures, there's more of them around, and the elephants make more of an effort to chase them away. And yes, then of course there's also the knowledge that a lion is probably the only predator out here that is capable of, if they put their mind to it, tackling and killing an elephant. The cryptic colouring of a leopard, giving us a very clear indication of just how it works. Because Shamsun at one point, in terms of distance, the closest elephant probably came within about less than 20 meters, so less than 60 feet of where quarantine is lying there. They're now a bit further away. They're probably about 40 or no, less than 30 meters, 90 feet away, drinking on the opposite side of the dam, having a wonderful time. Little one. Bit more tricky when your trunk's not so long. Very difficult to reach down and not actually find yourself falling in to the water, which does occasionally happen with baby elephants. They have decided that they're going to move off in the opposite direction, I think. Or maybe not. the more thirsty ones. The thing is, on that side of the area, that's where the fresh water comes in, so that's where the elephants usually go to drink, because elephants are fussy drinkers. But there's a very high wall there, which makes it a bit more tricky. Look at that. Has he been spotted? Little elephant knows something, but it hasn't worked out. And quarantine appears to have frozen. There we go, a bit of movement. Look at that little one. It's attracted by movement, but it didn't realize what is there. It senses something, but doesn't know what it is. It isn't brave enough to go and investigate. That's what I meant when I said the younger elephants have different, better eyesight to the adults. This is an incredible sighting. Well, hey Brian, good idea. Well done, good idea coming to Cheetah Plains. This was Brian's suggestion, and I think it was a marvelous one. Now, our little elephant has moved off, obviously dismissed its suspicions that it was about to encounter a leopard, and moved off with the rest of its herd. But there's a lot of vocalization happening with the different members of this herd, and we heard them screaming when we first arrived here, trumpeting away. Perhaps screaming is a slightly misleading way of describing it. Anna-Marie, yes, elephant trumpeting sounds do mean different things. We might not be able to understand or interpret all of them, but elephants do have a very, very wide range of different communication techniques. Almost invariably, though, that trumpeting sound that they make indicates distress of some kind. Oh, look at that, it's amazing. Such an awesome image. Watching everybody disappearing off into the bushes. Yesterday he was being chased by buffalo. Today he narrowly avoided being chased by a herd of elephants. And off they go, none the wiser for their close encounter with one of Africa's most mysterious predators. The leopard has gone completely unnoticed, as he did with us when we first stopped at the pan to have a look around. Absolutely awesome. That was really one of the most amazing leopard-elephant encounters I've ever watched. Not that they actually encountered each other, but just in terms of the scenery, it was absolutely breathtaking. Another big yawn, knowing of course that with big cats, very often when they yawn like that, when they start to groom their feet, they are a lot of the time thinking about getting up and shifting, either to just find a more comfortable pose or to move off in search of prey. Speaking of which, I don't know where that impala went. It got intimidated by the elephants and it ran off. There are impala around, and at some point they are going to want to come for a drink. Very, very cool. I'm just waiting for a moment before we do reposition to see what he's going to do. I do want to just see if he's going to move or if he's going to stay there. Perfectly nestled between the two worry bushes. He is gorgeous. I've met Quarantine, Kunuma, Quarantine's twin brother once, very, very briefly. So this is one of my longest encounter with Karula's previous litter. While we think about where would be best to put ourselves and what our best view is going to be of this magnificent cat, James is back up and running. Not literally, but the bushwalk backpack is back up and running. Let us head across to him for a quick update.
Righty, sorry about that everybody. We changed our batteries and now we seem to be up and running again, as Jamie says. I heard her link there, and when she referred to the magnificent cat, I almost for a second thought she was referring to me, but of course she isn't. She's referring to Quarantine, the male leopard. We are going towards the hyena den on Gallagher Shortcut. With any luck, there will be some hyenas there. That's why we're going to the hyena den after all. It is not simply to look at the salubrious neighbourhood that is the Gallagher Shortcut hyena den. The battery on the bushwalk backpack is giving us a little bit of trouble, mainly because it's being required to do quite a lot more than it does normally. But we're okay now. We should be okay for the next 25 minutes or so. I'm not sure how long James is going to be able to do those with that leopard, because I know that there are thousands of people converging on Cheetah Plains now, because not much else has been found anywhere around the place. So we'll see. We're not too far from the den site. I would very like to see those little black cubs. I've only seen them once, and that was almost probably 10 days ago now, which is just too long to be away from little ones. And I don't know what the conclusion of what Herbert Karula was. The conclusion as to what it was. That is actually she's, I don't know. And there's much delightful apricity today. Candace in Cape Town's my new favourite word, apricity. David, you're still alive back there, are you?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. Just making sure. Geraldine, are you still there? Oh, good. Phew. I thought we were alone, everybody, for a second there. Right, we're at the hyena den. Let's go and have a look. Someone's been in here relatively recently. I'm not sure if they're still in there. The creaking boat that is the Mahindra. Oh, there is someone here. Let me just call them quickly before we blunder in there. Station at hyena den, come in. It's Herbert. Herbie, have you got visual of anything there? Can we come in? Oh, and the babies.
Will you mind to give me 2 minutes? I'll be moving out front.
Okay, no problem, Herb. We'll wait here. The babies are there, but Herbie says there's only space for one vehicle, and he's going to leave in the next 2 minutes or so. So, Jerry, is Jamie ready for a link, or should we do a loop around? All right, let's go across to Jamie while we wait to see what happens here.
While James waits to go to the hyena den, I'm just going to move up to give yours a good view of our beautiful leopard as well. Go ahead, Mike. That's affirmative, Mike. There were tire tracks over them already. The Medoro and Kwanzo. Sorry, guys. Just chatting to Mike. There we go. Oh, this is... This is absolutely wonderful. A playful roll in the sand, and then an intensely focused look off behind us. I'm looking to see whether or not he's spotted something that we haven't. Looking around. And is he going to go for a drink? He's definitely, now that we've seen him up and about, he is definitely empty-bellied and in need of a good feed. Here he goes, wandering along the water's edge. He's going to have a quick drink. I'm going to reposition quickly for us, just so that we've got a view of him from the side. There we go. Absolutely awesome. Okay guys, things are going to get a little bit tricky on the Game Drive comms. Bear with me one moment. Mike, there's just yours and myself in the sighting, because we can't copy all of the responding stations. Maybe if you can just keep an ear out for who's coming, but you are more than welcome to make your way. Oh, he's just so magnificent. Absolutely gorgeous. And he is hungry, he's on alert, he's looking for something to eat, and I think he's decided that the patience game is not paying off. He is going to start moving off in search of a meal. Okay guys, things have changed now on the Game Drive channel. There are several vehicles waiting to approach. We're fine for now. As soon as a Taxon starts to enter the area, then we will have to pull out. But we're going to stay with him for as long as possible. Okay, let's go. Hopefully quarantine now mobile south, past the last southernmost pan of 3-in-the-row pan. Here we go. Let's pull up alongside the magnificent male. Alright, we've still got a bit of time with him. Let's go up here. And he is absolutely magnificent. Let's make the most of our sighting with him, but I am going to have to get onto the Game Drive channel in a moment. So while we watch him stride away, let's enjoy what might be the last view of him, depending on the position of the other vehicles, as he marches forward. No problem, Mike. And it seems as though James has got a very special surprise for you. It's just a morning full of excitement. Let's go and see what he has found.
Look everybody, there's little baby hyena cub, and we've come to the den and there they are, and that's just marvellous. All is perfect peace here, and interestingly we've only seen one cub here. I don't know where the other one is, and the last time we saw them, Jamie made the very good point that one of them seems to be completely dominant over the other, and that dominance may eventually result in, of course, siblicide, or certainly starvation for the other one. And the other one, Jamie thought, looked noticeably smaller and noticeably less able to defend itself. So let's hope it's still in there. Maybe it's just fed already. Now maybe this is the less dominant one, actually. All right, let's go back to the leopard. Apparently we have to say goodbye to him.
Come in, Tax, it's fine, I'll pull out. Oh, in that case, no, we don't have to pull out. Sorry, guys, I thought we were going to be saying goodbye. But, thanks, yours. Cheers. But we don't have to leave just yet, because yours has very kindly provided us with a little bit of space to view him. How marvelous. I want to see if he marks his territory here. Is he going to urine spray, or is he not? I am, however, going to give the best view to Tax, who's just come in, so his guests haven't had a chance to spend as much time with this leopard as we have. He is too. He is scent marking. Not fully, but he did urine spray on that particular bush. It is interesting. That's just because what we were talking about at the start of the drive, about the fact that he's not yet competing for territory, but it seems as though he might be. While we reposition and try and find you a nice view, perhaps try and stay with him, let's go back to James and the wonderful hyena cubs.
No changes here, everybody. Still just the one cub having a nice suckle, seeing what's going on, enjoying the apricity of the morning. You see that, David? You see them both enjoying the apricity there. Apricity, for those of you who don't know, means the warmth of the sun on a cold winter's morning. Thank you, Candace in Cape Town, for that one. So, we're just trying to find out where the other little cub is. I have seen not hide nor hair of him or her, and I cannot tell whether the cub we're looking at now is a male or a female. It's still completely black. There's the other one. Yay, look. This is fantastic. Hooray. Both are fine. That's marvellous. I don't see any noticeable difference in size. But I mean, that's because I haven't had a great view of either of them. Let's just see if the other little one comes out. I think trying to get a bit of a suckle from the rear end there, which I think is quite difficult given the steepness of the den. I've looked into that hole. It's very steep. It goes straight down. And just a little bit of movement, and I know that you're hearing, not your hearing, but our ability to transfer the sounds of this scene are not particularly good at the moment, but we can hear the little one inside the den going very high-pitched squealing sounds. But now seems to have disappeared back inside. Let's have another look with the binoculars. Hello Justin, a very nice question from you about when the cubs start to lose their spots and or lose their black colour and get their spots. You see them in the sun, they're already starting to get a bit of spotting. But Justin, normally when they start to spend more and more time out of the den, so those spots will fade from now until they are about, I'd say about 4 or 5 months, then there's absolutely none of that black colour left. It's purely the spotting. It's almost like that black colour sort of splits apart into the spots. It isn't what happens, but that's kind of what it looks like. Just having a very, very hard suckle. Now, of course, most other predators, many predators, have got all the cats have got 4 nipples, 4 teats. The dogs, many more, sometimes up to 8 or 9, at least 8 or 10, I think. Hyenas, only 2. Only 2, which I think is quite interesting. They're in oh, there's the other little one, now at the back, at the top. Looks like a little chimpanzee. And they, because of that, of course, they cannot produce, or they cannot support more than 2 cubs at a time. And often, you have the situation where if they give birth to 3 cubs, which is possible, unlikely but possible, then definitely one of them is going to die, because she only has 2 teats from which to feed them. I'm sorely tempted to try and get another different angle on this, Davy. It might result in the cubs going inside, but I think they'll come out again. But just because I think we might be able to get both of them if we sneak slightly forward. Let's just wait here for a second, just in case that other one does pop its head out. Alright, while we move around, let's go across back to quarantine.
We are still with our magnificent male leopard as he goes off in search of something to catch and to eat. And what a marvelous way to finish off our Saturday morning sunrise safari. And as he goes along, he is scent marking regularly, spraying his urine onto the bushes and scraping his feet. And no wonder Shimbambalana's not... Oh, hello. Terribly impressed with him. Surprise photobomb from one of the other vehicles. And as I said, I'm letting them just go ahead of us because we've spent so much time with him and the guests in that vehicle haven't. So they can take prime position as we come through to the end. And we are going to have to pull out in a moment. Oh, be prepared again. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Giving us a good view. Moving right up to the side. I'm not going to follow him into this drainage line. He is going to disappear in. Let me just let Tax go ahead of me here. There's only space for one of us. Oh, there we go. Good morning, Ephraim. How are you? Good, thank you. You snuck up on me. I didn't hear you coming. Yeah, east, but from the southernmost pan. Yeah, but highly mobile. Okay. Cool. Cheers, guys. Whoop, sorry about the judder, everybody. Let's catch up. Ephraim snuck right up on me. I did not know he was there at all. Let me move over so that his guests can have a view as well. Sorry, guys. As I said, the guests haven't had a chance to spend as much time as we have, so we are going to let them move ahead of us. There we go. And as soon as he does go into this drainage line itself, then we are not going to be able to keep up with him. So we'll go for one last, oh, let's go there, one last view. Oh, Rusty. Fine, we'll go one last view here. And we will say farewell to quarantine. My first time encountering this particular male leopard. And what a special sighting it has been, a very memorable one for the first time in seeing him. Well, Cheetah Plains brought us some fantastic luck, and bravo to Brian for suggesting that it was perhaps time to make our way east and encountering a first leopard for me, Quarantine, one of Karula's younger sons. And as he disappears off, we've got plenty to anticipate for the sunset safari. We're going to leave him be for now. Hopefully we can catch up with him there. In the meantime, we have come now to the end of our sunrise safari. So as always, a big bravo and thank you to Brian for his fantastic camera work as always. And I think you'll all agree that elephant leopard sighting is something that will go down in terms of being something truly extraordinary. I'm going to keep babbling on until the thumb has had time to disrobe and make an appearance for the last few moments. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you to Jerry and Kirsty in Final Control. Well done, Jerry. Back on the job once again. And thank you to all of you. Bye-bye, and we'll catch you in a few hours.
Wonderful sighting here, everybody. The two cubs have come out. We managed to move, and thankfully they didn't run away from the car. And now they're sort of, I mean, it looks deeply uncomfortable to me. If I was a hyena mother and I had my bits being tugged at by two different angles like that, I'd probably be very upset. I just think this is an amazing sighting. Look at them. They are having a bit of a scrap over who gets what. But it's a beautiful sighting, especially of Mum. Mum looks stunning. See the wind starting to come up now just behind her. And they've been squealing and shouting at each other. And obviously milk of a premium. Now let's just check if we can see any size difference there. I'm not sure that I can see a size difference. Maybe the one underneath is slightly smaller, at least slightly bigger. What do you think, Dave?
I would agree with that.
But also, look at the nick. Out of the one underneath's ear, you can see a very definite nick from the right-hand ear there. And I'm pretty sure that's from a bite that's come from a sibling. And they are drinking very, very strongly. Now, what we can see, if you look, Dave, if you get in between the legs of the one at the back there, that looks very much to me like a female pseudo-penis that's just popped out there. And for those of you who are slightly unfamiliar with the situation, what happens is that they've both got all sort of what look like male genitalia. The only way to tell the difference is the shape of the end. So on the males, it's pinched off, the penis is pinched off. On the females, the pseudo-penis just tends to be kind of pointed at the end with no sort of difference in the shaft. And I think that's a little female there that's on top. And now she's taken over that teat. That's interesting. And Mum very patiently just lying there. She'll have to go off every so often. You know that we've been to this den 3 or 4 or 5 times and found nothing here. That's because Mum has to go off and hunt. She has to go and eat. The hyenas don't feed each other in the same way that wild dogs do. So she will have to kind of fend for herself. Yes, she can join the others on a hunt or at a kill site, but it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely that she'll manage to sort of bring something back here and enjoy it. So I wonder how her milk production is going. She looks pretty well fed. Okay, everybody, that's going to be it from us today. Nice closing with that beautiful leopard, elephants, wonderful hyenas here right at the very death of our cold and precipitous drive. Thank you, David, for your efforts. Big thank you to Jerry in the final control with Kirsten. Big thank you to Jamie, of course, and Brian on the other vehicle. And all of you. We'll see you later at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Bye-bye.